Howdy y'all, Fuzzy Biker here. It's about 78 degrees in the last few days of February in Iowa. How is that possible, right? Anyway, I did a beautiful ride today with a bunch of my friends. The bike I took was this little hot rod again. Finally I've got 1,000 miles on it, just over 1,000 miles on it. I picked this up last Wednesday. Today is Monday. So 6 days, 1,000 miles. I'm pretty proud of myself. Had a lot of fun. Really learned a lot. It's been an interesting machine. It's performed very well. And it's got those quirks, you know, classic styling, not overpowered, you know, hard, all that neat stuff. Remember we talked about the euphemisms, maybe, if you saw the last video? What I said was this is a bike that is full of euphemisms and anti-euphemisms, and what I didn't do was I talked a lot about the euphemisms, but I didn't talk about the anti-euphemisms. That would be the fact that it does run so well, and it does handle so well, and it does do so many things so well, and it does have high quality, and it looks like, you know, it's a very nice motorcycle. Let's just start right with the seat. It's 30.3 inches, so about 270 millimeters. These are my Royal Enfield Alpine Star V2 gloves. Very nice on a day like today. Almost too warm, actually. This is a Moto Guzzi. It says, I don't know if you can see that here, Comfort Gel seat. I don't know if this is a stock seat or if this is what they send with it. I did about 260 miles yesterday, about 270, 280 today. I had no trouble with it at all yesterday. I will tell you that within 50 miles of home, I'd had enough. It was starting to get me. If I actually pulled over and got gas, even though I didn't need it, I wanted to get off the bike for a little bit. So part of that is I'm not used to it. You know, I've ridden the bike 1,000 miles. It takes 1,000 miles or more to get used to a seat. Overall, I'd say it's maybe an 8. Let's give it that for a number. Jumping up to the grips. This bike does vibrate because of this 90-degree V-twin that sits right there and does all kinds of wonderful things. And somebody has put these grip puppies on here. Now, when I first got this bike, the first day, I was gripping on for my, you know, for dear life. And I got home, my hands were absolutely numb. I haven't had that problem since. I've learned to hold on loosely and to hold on tight when I have to, you know, at the right times. You get used to the vibration. It's been a long time since I've had a bike that does that. It's a low frequency vibration, so it's, you know, it's not absolutely terrible or anything, but it's there. This bike does have risers on it. See right here? So the bars have been raised and moved towards me, towards the rider, towards the seat a little bit. Next thing I want to talk about is foot peg position. And, you know, look at that. That all looks like real high quality stuff, you know, the make master cylinder, the pegs, everything. I would like it if these were maybe a little farther down or maybe a little farther forward. I will get used to them. So overall, how was the ride comfort in relation to the seat, the grips, and the pegs? Pretty good. I would say when you were riding the thing with passion, Italian motorcycle, right? It was really good. I was really happy with it. I never felt uncomfortable. I felt like I could move pretty easy. This is a bike that needs to be driven with a lot of English and a lot of, you know, sliding back and forth and stuff like that to get most of the handling, especially at higher speeds. I felt like it did a really good job. You know, later in the day, as I wore out and as we started calming down and riding a little more, you know, mellow, so to speak, it started to wear on me. So let's talk about handling next. And that's kind of an interesting thing. I've divided it into 3 categories. The below 45 handling, the more I ride the bike, the more friendly I've gotten with it, the more I've learned how it works. You know, I've learned how to shut off the traction control, so it's a lot more fun around town. So next would be between 45 and 65 miles an hour. That's kind of the place where it feels uncomfortable a little bit, a little jittery, a little uneasy on its tires, so to speak. It isn't that it handles poorly at those speeds. It's just that's its weakest point. Now above those speeds, 65 miles, every mile above 65, especially over 70, 80, 90, that's when this thing really starts to jump into its own. I would say that it was set up to go fast like that. I think the front end, which is not adjustable, the shocks and, you know, the tire and all that neat stuff, I think it's set up for those kind of speeds. I took it on some rough roads on purpose. It was almost torture. It was really that bad. And what I found was the faster I went, the smoother it rode. And that tells me that the suspension is stiff. I can adjust the rear. I can't really do anything about the front. Going to the brakes, I have nothing negative to say about the brakes. I would say that they worked very well. I've been very happy with them. I think it's a 320 millimeter disc on the front. It's a Brembo caliper on the front. Big, massive disc, ABS brakes. Worked excellent at high speeds, at low speeds, around town, you know, every range. And the tires as well. I have absolutely no issues with these tires. They work very well. These are Pirelli Sport Demons, they're called. just had a ball on them. They really ran. They've just performed admirably. Jumping over to transmission, that's kind of an interesting thing. I like the transmission on this bike. It is a positive shift, but it doesn't have that clunk at the end of the positive shifting. The transmission works smoothly at low speeds, but seems to work better the harder you ride the bike. So I would give that transmission a pretty good A+. I've heard about when they're new, they're stiff. Well, most bikes, that's how they are. So from the transmission, let's talk about the engine. It's an interesting ride, and it's really the heart of the whole bike. This is the whole reason this bike acts the way it does, I believe. So I think there's a pretty low center of gravity because of this. I think the vibration is because of this. Still warm. I just got back a little bit ago. It's a very interesting pull. It has loads of torque down low. It's 44 foot-pounds of torque, about 60 newton meters, but it seems to come in right at idle. I mean, it just has tons of torque. It's got a dry clutch, by the way. The roll-on speed on this motorcycle is phenomenal. Let's say you're going 60, you turn the gas, that speedometer needle just climbs like the dickens. I mean, it's really amazing. Another interesting thing about the engine is, you know, they always talk about these being in your way of your knees. Not even close. They're not even an issue. I like the way the transmission's bolted back on the engine. I'm assuming the clutch is in here somewhere, and of course the shaft drive right there. We did talk about the traction control already, how easily it is to defeat. You got to be moving, you just push that button in for about 2 seconds, let go, and the traction control shuts off. This is an interesting thing. When I first got to riding this bike, I didn't care for this at all. Now, 1,000 miles later, 6 days later, I just love this thing. It's simplicity. It's when I first got it, I thought this LCD part was just overly complicated. You know, I didn't understand what everything was. I got the book out. I started reading things and figuring things out, like the traction control and the mode button. And, you know, it seems to work very well. There's the odometer, 4,500, 6 miles. When I first got on this bike, it had 3,500, 5 miles, so or 1,001 mile. But check it out. So odometer, trip meter B, that's a trip counter, so how long you've been riding the bike. Average fuel mile, average miles per hour, 59. Hey, that's pretty good, right? Average fuel mileage, fuels per gallon, temperature, and that's actually pretty accurate. Every time I went through, I checked that. It was within 1 or 2 degrees every time. 78 degrees right now, end of February. Clock, this is your, so you can go from 1 or 2 on your TC, or you can turn it off. Once you figure it out, it's actually a pretty good system. I do like it. So stepping back from all of this, what about things like quality or overall usefulness or something like that? Quality, I think, is actually really high. You know, and that's an interesting thing, because I've heard stories about these bikes not having the best fasteners or things like that. And my experience so far in 6 days or 1,000 miles has been pretty darn good. I've been very impressed with this. You know, everything here, for instance, looks top notch. I love the way these look. Everything is cast, you know, nothing's stamped. These are not the factory mufflers. That's the one thing that really, I'm working on something for that. Even these shocks, these things that are beating me to death, pretty good looking units. And of course, look at this swing arm with the shaft drive. Just a beautiful thing on both sides. Nice cast piece. Very nice, you know. I think they've done a good job. Even the paint, you know, this is a matte finish red. I like it. I think they've done well. How about overall usefulness? That's an issue. This bike does just a couple things very well, and the rest of the things it does okay. You know, it doesn't do great. It just does okay. Is it a good cruiser? I don't think it would be a good cruiser. You know, if you want to bum around town, yeah, maybe for a short bit of time. But is it a good long distance bike? I don't think it would be. Could you do it? I think you can, and I'm actually going to do it. I've got a 700-mile trip that I want to take on this thing. 730 miles. I'd like to do that all in one day. Obviously, it's not a dirt bike, although we did have it on gravel today. And it did okay. I turned off the traction control and had it spinning like mad. It was just a hoot. What a grin, what a grin. So it does a single thing really well, which is the curves, the twisties. You know, I was out with my buddies today. We were, you know, a Triumph Tiger, a Triumph T100, later a Royal Enfield 350, the one that I did a video about, the guy that had the cams and the pipes and all that neat stuff. And this thing ate the roads up pretty well. I mean, it just, we went through the Lost Hills of Iowa, and this thing just rolled like you wouldn't believe, and just, it was very commanding. It was a lot of work, by the way. That's something else I got to mention. The bike is a lot of work to ride hard, and I think that appeals to me as a motorcycle rider of age. Is that a euphemism? Because it reminds me of days gone by and how bikes used to act. So what's next with this bike for me? Well, I've driven it 1,000 miles in 6 days. I think I'm gonna leave it parked for about a week. I've got other bikes to ride. I think that one's going out tomorrow. We were supposed to take that one out today, but my friends called me up and said, hey, we're taking street bikes, so I took this one. I would like to get this one out. We've got 70 and 80 degree weather, I think, 70s, high 70s, Saturday and Sunday. So I'd like to put a bunch of miles on this one. This is a very comfortable long distance rider bike. So this one might just have to sit in the garage for, you know, a few days. Anyway, what fun, huh? Life is good. Life is good. If y'all are interested in a motorcycle, like any one of these or something like this, get yourself over to Baxter Cycle in Marnie, Iowa, or go to baxtercycle.com. If you need gear, accessories, parts, doodads, thingamajigs, sweet googly woogly, they got it all. Make sure you tell those folks that Fuzzy Biker sent you. Now, if it's nice where y'all are at, get out and ride, my friends. Wahoo!